This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I'm Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and alongside me is Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And we are here to talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, the Los Angeles Lakers, where Jake is going to be calling in on the next two segments, which should be fun, so stay tuned. If you are on YouTube, check those out tomorrow, or if you're watching the full podcast, what's up? If you're on Blog Talk Radio, listen, because Jake's going to be coming on Patreon of ours. He talks Lakers and Clippers with us. We recorded it, and it was a great job.
It was a fantastic segment.
It was super fun, so if you see us, if you're on YouTube with headphones, that's why, but it was absolutely fun, so go watch those. And then after that, we're talking the injuries. Gordon Hayward,
Jeremy
Lin out for the season, and then Chris Paul out for 2 to 4 weeks. We're going to talk about the severity of those, and then we're also going to be talking about Giannis, because he's a monster, but we're going to introduce something new. First week of the regular season, we're going to be talking about some damp dudes, some soggy shooters, some perspirating people, and we're talking about some moist men. This is Wet Boys, a new segment where we're going to be talking about each week a player that absolutely went off in the first week of the NBA, or at least every single week. Every single week, this is going to be a recurring podcast segment that we talk about a guy who just went completely off. We always wanted to do segments like this. We did DeMar, Anthony Davis, and was it Russ last year?
Yeah,
and we kind of debated them, but we really couldn't incorporate that into a segment every week. Now we're going to do it with Wet Boys. So we're going to be bringing a guy that really went off each week and had a fantastic week, and we're going to talk about him. And this is going to be the way that we can talk about guys that absolutely went off. Because sometimes you guys
give props when they're due.
Yeah, and sometimes you guys talk about, you bring up guys who just went off. You're like, talk about them. Well, we can't because it's not something that's going to last. But now Wet Boys is going to be a recurring segment, and we're going to have probably a Wet Boy of the Year.
I think we have to.
With a guy that...
We have to give him a trophy or something.
But I'm saying that with how many Wet Boys you can have, we could refer to these guys like, oh, he's a 2-time Wet Boy winner.
Ooh, I like that.
So these are our Wet Boys of the week. Dave, you're going to get us started with your Wet Boy.
Sure. My Wet Boy is, and of course, these are after pretty much 1 to 2 games of playing. Get through the time of recording, just so you guys are aware.
Mine's after 1 game, I think.
Mine's after 1 as well?
Yeah, yours is at 1 game, too.
I'm going with Kristaps Porzingis, the unicorn. Phenomenal performance to kick things off. 31 points, 12 boards, assist, a block. Basically, this man is the New York Knicks. Enough said, really. I loved what he put out there because it was the question of, without Carmelo Anthony, what can you do? And what he can do is everything they need.
He can lose to Carmelo.
He can lose to Carmelo. Let's just jump over that one. Look, Brody was the easy pick this week, and I feel like I wanna go out and venture on somebody who a lot of people are questioning. Can he do it on his own? Mm-hmm. What can this Knicks team do? And the answer is Porzingis can absolutely lead a team. He can absolutely be the number 1 scorer. He is playing with great energy. I think he's honestly proving the point of he can take that next step because his rookie year to his second year, there was a slight improvement, but honestly it wasn't what people were expecting. Now I'm going to see him can he be a 25 point a game score for the entire season?
Yeah.
I think so. I think we could be seeing something special.
Well, he was super efficient too, 44% from the field, 33% from 3. I mean, Kristaps had a fantastic game, and I hope really for the best for Kristaps because he's such a fun player to watch. When he's healthy and he's going, he is amazing. I mean, he's great defensively too. He can really just stuff the lane. Yep. You look at his ability just with the ball, and at his size at 7'3", I mean, he's just ridiculous out there, and he's super fun to watch. So hopefully Kristaps is going to be a recurring Wet Boy because he's absolutely fun to watch. It was great in that Thunder game. We're going to go over to the other side, even though they played in OKC. We're going to the other side. You talked about New York. I'm talking about LA, but not about the team that you're thinking about. We're not talking about the LA Clippers or the LA Lakers. We're talking about the LA Clippers. I'm fucking it up. We're talking about the Clip Show. Pat Bev setting the tone against the Los Angeles Lakers. LeVar Ball didn't even know who Pat Bev was before this game. I knew who he was because I'm a basketball fan. Dave knew who he was. Yep. You knew who he was because you guys watch basketball. You watch the NBA. Pat Bev last year, 2017, All-Defensive Player of the Year, set the tone against Lonzo and knocked Lonzo Ball around. It was awesome to see, and I'm not rooting against Lonzo Ball at all. I'm not.
Give me a smidge.
I'm not. I'm honestly not. I hope the best for Lonzo Ball. He's a fun player to watch. He absolutely is.
Yeah.
With his ability to play make, he's a fun player to watch. He has a wonky-ass shot. I don't like his dad. But as a player, he seems like a nice kid. He seems like a kid that was put in a great situation. And his dad might be crazy in the media, but he did put his kid in a nice situation going to UCLA and getting in the NBA. But outside of that, Pat Bev set the tone, knocked around LeVar Ball's kid, and absolutely made Lonzo look crazy. So we're looking at this, and Pat Bev coming over to the Clippers made this Clippers team look like a different team. We talked about this with Jake, but I'm looking at this team, and there's something that with the Clippers they don't really bring like every other team. You look at the Golden State Warriors and the Rockets, they bring shooting, they bring high tempo pace. You look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have 3 stars there. But you look at the Los Angeles Clippers, they have 2 big dominant bigs down there with Blake and DeAndre. They have a great scorer in Danilo. They have great scorers off the bench, Austin Rivers and Lou Will.
Yep.
But they have these 2 guards in Milos and Pat Bev. And the combo of those 2 is something that I'm really going to be interested to see how they grow. Because Pat Bev, like I said, set the tone defensively, he set the tone physically. And then with Milos, and he's your boy.
He is my boy.
He struggled a little bit in that first game, but I think that he can be a guy that can really take the playoffs, to the Clippers to the playoffs.
He dished out some dimes. Gotta give him his respect. That's
Only
his
6.
thing. I mean, only 6, but that's not bad for his first game in the NBA. I mean, come on, he's 30 years old. And that's the thing. Like,
he's 30 years old. He needs time to adjust. These young kids need some time to adjust.
Needs time to adjust. But no, I mean, all respect to Pat Bev. I think this was a standout game for him, standout week, hopefully, as it continues on. The big thing with him, was kind of setting the tone for this new look Clippers team, honestly. It's a much more well-rounded team without Chris Paul. Sounds weird to say, but I honestly think if you could duct tape, Milos and him together, you'd have the perfect point guard. But in the meantime, on his own, not too shabby at all, and I love the intensity. You're right. Knocking Lonzo on his ass is going to be it's on ESPN, it's on Sportsnet. We're going to see it all year.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic.
And it's going to be fun to see Pat Bev and the new Clippers
show
what they can do. But tell us in the comments down below who your wet boy of the week is. Hopefully this actually sticks on, because it's a stupid name for a segment. But
it is.
We're having fun here on the Fast Break Podcast. And moving on, we are going to jump into the Los Angeles Clippers, and we want to mention and welcome one of our patrons and loyal subscribers. We're going to welcome in Jake on the phone. Jake, you there?
How you guys doing?
Holy crap, this is so cool.
Oh my God, it's working.
First time we're doing this. We're doing pretty decent. Nikola Vucevic just dropped 41 points prior to this recording, so Nikola Vucevic showing that he's the number 1 in the NBA.
Absolutely. Straight up?
Jesus.
Straight up for Draymond. But we're going to jump into the first topic. Jake wanted to talk about the Lakers and Clippers game from Thursday, and we're going to jump into it. Clippers won 108-92, and we're going to jump into the Clippers side first. And looking at our predictions, at least on the Fast Break side, the Clippers were, I was the only person that picked the Clippers to make the playoffs. And I based this around the fact that Blake Griffin's still a great player. DeAndre Jordan, while he is very one-dimensional, he's very good at what he does. And also Pat Bev can bring kind of tenacity defensively, and Milos can bring a lot of, posh and
crafty
spice
passing and
crafty
offensive
passing.
looks.
So, Jake, looking at this, did you have the Clippers as a playoff team going into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they'd be like a 5 to 8. I didn't think they would be probably not even a 5, probably like 6 to 8. But I think like the overlooked piece a lot with their team is Gallinari, and I don't think Gallinari is a 1 scorer, maybe even a 2, but he gets hot at random times during the season. Like I remember when he first came over in the Melo trade for the Knicks, he was like one of the biggest pieces in the entire trade. And he was supposed to like almost carry the franchise, which obviously he can't carry our entire franchise, but he definitely. I think he still can put up 15 to 18 points a game. I mean, he didn't look really good yesterday.
Yeah, the poor shooting night, but
yeah, and I think that's something where you look at his poor shooting. I think that's going to settle in because Milos didn't have a great night as well. But looking at Gallinari and talking about that overlooked piece, because I think you bring up a great point. Last 2 years, average around 19 and 18. I think he could still do this on this Clipper team. I mean, Blake obviously took the front and the load of that offense last night, putting up 29 points. DeAndre did his thing, grabbing 24 boards. But at least one thing that I want to bring up and ask you, Dave, is do you think that not only Gallinari, but kind of these bench pieces can be enough for this team? Because you look at it, obviously, Lou Will was a guy who competed for the 6th man last year. You look at Wesley Johnson's been decent. Austin Rivers had a terrible night. But do you think the bench is deep enough for them to kind of make a playoff run? Yeah,
I think it is. It's a good balance because you have those guys who can pop off on any given night. Between Austin, Lou Williams, both of those guys I have faith in. I don't think they're going to be like cold all. I mean, it was one game. I'm not going to extrapolate too much out of it, but both of those guys have proven that they can go off. Austin Rivers had the 1 month of extremely great success at the end of last year. Lou Williams consistently an amazing bench scorer. Pat Beverly, phenomenal game. I think showing everybody that he's not just that one-dimensional defensive player. He really is an all-around great point guard. Milos changing up. I think they have enough playmakers with the ball in their hand to make this work. The question with the Clippers always comes back to Blake Griffin's health. Blake Griffin has been a great player at times, but it's at times, it's not the whole season because he always gets injured.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say one game I'm locking him in the playoffs, but he's 1 for 1. Give him his credit. He was definitely looked better than I expected without Chris Paul out there to direct traffic.
Yeah, and
that was surprising.
You look at a stat line, 29 points. I know that's obviously more to a game than a stat line, but 29 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. If he does that for you, he's going to be a force out there. And if he brings that to you, he's easily number 1. But Jake, I want to go to you because you mentioned in the DMs that we're going back and forth, and you also mentioned it when we hit you up before we started recording, that you weren't a big Blake fan, but this game kind of changed your mind. What was it about this game that kind of brought you over to the Blake side?
Yeah, I mean, he was always like that. I always thought he was good, but I didn't think he was like a superstar. But I thought he was always like one-dimensional. But a couple of years ago, he started out like adding a mid-range jumper, and then yesterday he was 3 of 6 from 3. I mean, I don't know where that came from, but he was handling the ball more. Like he was literally taking ISO situations during the game. Like I didn't expect that at all, to be honest. And if he can continue to do that for the rest of the season, I don't see why not. They can't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and
can't make the playoffs.
Looking at Blake and kind of going off your point and at least talking about his ability ISO, I mean, he is, at least when he came out back in 2009, he was one of the most athletic players in college. And he went number 1 for a reason. I mean, Blake Griffin coming out of college, he was fantastic, kind of to Dave's point. He just was never healthy enough, never been healthy enough, at least to be that player consistently. And I mean, he came in averaging 22 points per game, playing 38 minutes, playing a whole season in his rookie year. And yeah, he had to take a lot of that load early on, but he put up a stat line of 22, 12, 3 assists and around like a block and a half a block and about a steal a game. So I mean, Blake, obviously has the health concerns, but I feel like obviously showing what he did early on in his career without Chris Paul, doing what he did with Chris Paul, then kind of like you said, Jake, developing his game. I think that Blake Griffin probably has been overlooked and one of the most overlooked players for a while, because I think we look at our power forward rankings coming into this year. I think he was really low. I think you guys had him below Kevin Love.
Yeah, I had Kevin Love as my 2-man, though, to be fair.
What do you mean?
For power forward, I think Kevin Love was my second best power forward.
Oh, okay.
So Blake was still top 5, but I think he does kind of get mixed in that much because it was always Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin. It was that 3-man squad was the Clippers' identity for so long. And yeah, I think we probably did overlook him, but I think it's a weird case of like addition through subtraction with this Clippers team. By removing Chris Paul and adding in a couple more role players, you're able to see more out of Blake Griffin. You're able to see more out of DeAndre Jordan and stuff that we haven't gotten to see from Blake in years. I'm hoping to see consistently this year. Like you said, him being more dominant, running the ISO, being able to be more ball dominant. And I'm excited for that because it's something that we hadn't really seen. Now we had another shooter on the outside with Danilo. Like this seems like a really balanced team on paper. And they've got some excellent bench scoring. And honestly, I think it's just a weird, well-rounded way that they changed their team from, Chris Paul focused. I want to say focused, but the ball ran through Chris Paul. The offense ran through him. And all of a sudden, now you have this balanced attack where 1 through 5, you feel really good about it.
Jake, did you want to mention something about that?
I was just agreeing. Yeah, I mean, I think they were extremely lucky because Chris Paul literally could have just left them. But instead, they got, I don't know how many players it was. They got a crap ton.
Yeah, they got Pat Bev, they got Decker, Harrell they got from them, and then I think Lou Will. Did Lou Will come over in that trade? Or they said no, they got Lou Will.
I'm not sure which one that was.
And then Pat Bev, yeah, I mean they got about 5 or 6 players in that trade, and it was a brilliant trade from Jerry West. I think that's something that we mentioned Doc Rivers' struggles at least with the Clippers and not being able to get over that hump.
Yeah.
But I think bringing in Jerry West is something that I think is probably going to be underlooked. I think it's the reason why they're going to make the playoffs because Jerry West kind of changed the culture in Golden State. Obviously, they were, they still had the players there. I mean, Steph was still there, Clay was still there, and Draymond was still there when Jerry West came over. But he really took them to the next level along with Steve Kerr. And I feel like Jerry West might not be able to do that at the same level as Golden State, obviously, but I think he can at least take them to, remaining a consistent playoff team. And one thing that I saw with the Clippers is they have the ability, at least what we saw in that first game against the Lakers. And the Lakers are a young team. The Lakers are kind of a weaker team just physically.
Might be a little punching bag.
Yeah, I mean, physically, they're a weaker team out there. Brandon Ingram's a stick. Lonzo's a stick. Brook Lopez for a big. He's, jelly out there. But still, I feel like the Clippers can kind of have an identity where they are at least physical because DeAndre's a force. Blake's a force. Pat Bev showed that he's a force defensively and can at least kind of, trash talk up and down. Do you see that, Jake? Do you think that, maybe the Clippers won't take exactly a Memphis role, but they will probably be a better Memphis and what Memphis has been to the NBA and at least the Western Conference?
I mean, yeah, I kind of could see it. I mean, they're definitely going to be.
Am I just off my rocker?
You can tell if he is.
I could kind of see it. I don't really see it because obviously the Grizzlies always had a good guard like Mike Conley to play. I don't really think they have a Mike Conley level guard. Mm-hmm. But I do think Blake Griffin is way better than Zach Randolph. So, I don't know.
That's a fair assumption.
I don't know about Jordan and Gasol, but Jordan's a lot more one-dimensional. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I see the Grizzlies.
All right, that's fair. Maybe I'm off my rocker.
I think you're maybe stretching a little thin.
Okay.
Because this is a team that. Here's the thing with the Grizzlies.
I was at least thinking physical team. The last physical team we had in the Western Conference was the Grizzlies, and I just think that exactly not spitting image because
they're physical, they're intense, and that's why I like is they play up for that game. You could tell Pat Bev went out there on a mission, and not only did he but everyone on the court for the Clippers raise the level of intensity. They went out there to prove a point, to really show something, and honestly, I even saw defense out of guys like I didn't expect to see that level of defense. The thing for me is just, if they are that physical, the question then becomes, is that play style going to work for them against the top teams in the West? Mm-hmm. Can this compete? Because, like you said, they went up against the Lakers in that first game. Lakers are obviously expected to be like probably a bottom 3 team in the West this year. So it's what can they do against playoff teams? And that's where do you think this team will land against those kind of teams?
Well, and not only playoff teams, but also like teams like the Pelicans, because
that's a playoff team.
But at least, thank you, Jake. I don't know what Dave's been smoking with the Pelicans, but looking at the Pelicans, at least like more of a physical team, where you look at DeMarcus and Anthony Davis, it's going to be interesting to see what Blake and DeAndre can do. I think that at least what the Clippers are going to do against top teams like the Rockets, Warriors, and Thunder are going to go inside, and they're going to try to beat them up, and they're going to use Blake. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Draymond plays Draymond plays Blake, and I'm mixing up, I'm combining those guys, and how the Rockets kind of handle that if they're just going to push the tempo and try to tire those guys out. And then OKC, Melo isn't a stalwart down low. I mean, you could abuse Melo at least at that 4 position if he's on Blake. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think that they're going to play physical against them, and I think they're going to play physical against a lot of teams. But even then, they can kind of switch it up, and I think you can bring this back up, Jake, is with the Gallinari situation, and at least with their bench, you look at Rivers, you look at Lou Will, and you look at Sam Decker. These are kind of guys that are quicker players, up-tempo players, guys who have played on the Rockets before. I think that they have a kind of a nice mixture between force and then also at least a bit of speed out there. And that's what I really like about
to mix. On the other hand, you have Wes Johnson still, and that's the thing I like.
Yeah.
I
don't know about Wesley Johnson. I don't know about that.
I think he still provides some quality off the bench.
Yeah, he's all right.
I think that the one guy that I'm surprised you didn't mention, Dave, was Thornwell. But
I love Thornwell, but it's his first year. I know he's older than every other rookie, but it's his first year.
He shot 100%.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
1 for 1 at 3 points. To wrap this up, Jake, you're on board with the Clippers and the Clip Show making the playoffs, right?
Yeah, they're out in the first round, but they're in the playoffs.
Hey,
I'll take it.
We got one in.
Dave, are you buying in the Clippers as a playoff team?
Not yet. 1 out of 1 for Blake. I'll give him his credit. But there's a lot more games. There's 81 more to go this year, and if he plays in more than 70 of them, yeah.
I think Blake's going to get more than 70. I think that the Clippers can be a playoff team. I think Blake now and DeAndre have shown that they can go physical on teams. I think Pat Bev brings that as well. But then, like we kind of brought up in this, Milos kind of brings some skill and some speed.
Oh, yeah.
Sam Decker kind of brings some speed. Austin Rivers brings some speed, and Lou Will brings some speed. So I think that they can switch it up on teams. I think that they're pretty fundamentally sound as well. I think that's something that really plays into their favor. But Jake, we're gonna have you stick around. We're going to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. But moving on, we are going to touch upon the Lakers, and you're probably like, why are you guys wearing headphones? We got Jake on the phone. Jake sticking around after the Clipper conversation. He's going to be talking about the Lakers with us. If you didn't join us with the Clipper conversation, Lakers lost to the Clippers on Thursday night, 108-92. And the big story is that nobody knew who Patrick Beverley was before this game. Jake, did you know who Patrick Beverley was before this game?
No, not at all.
Did he play basketball? Or baseball?
Look, hey,
I think he was playing in China last year or something.
Oh, yeah, might have been China.
LeVar Ball saying that nobody knows who Pat Bev was. But if you actually watch basketball, LeVar Ball, he's pretty well known. But we're going to jump in and at least talk about the guy who Pat Bev was manhandling. I think his name's Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball absolutely shut out pretty much in his game, in his debut. 3 points. He had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and had 2 turnovers and a block and a steal too. But overall, Lonzo wasn't effective, and I think at least Pat Bev kind of introduced something to Lonzo Ball, which was trash talking and physical play. Because we saw, at least in the NCAA tournament, De'Aaron Fox was able to use his speed and beat Lonzo. But Jake, seeing the physical play, how long do you think that it will take Lonzo Ball to adjust kind of to the physicality of the NBA play? Because he really hasn't seen that, because college they weren't as physical.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't judge it too hard off of one game, because, I mean, Patrick Beverley is one of the best defenders, I think, in the game. But I think it'll probably take him, I mean, I don't know how long. I'm trying to think. I don't know.
Do you think it's going to take a whole? Right? Yeah, they're playing the Suns, so I mean that's kind of a
he
soft
should
one.
be on the same level.
Yeah,
he's pretty much the same age as the entire Suns roster.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They got a field trip advisor. Their mom signed off.
I mean, it usually takes rookies a good amount of time to get used to the NBA play style. I just think with all the hype that was built up with them, people expected way too much.
So
I think you guys touched on that a while ago, but I mean, I don't think he'll be. I never really was on the Lonzo hype train. I never thought he'd be like Jason Kidd. I think he'll be a good NBA point guard, but I mean.
Do you think we're going to see like the All-Star break turnaround? Kind of usually the last couple of months of the year we see like what the rookie really can do. Do you think it's going to take him that long, or maybe even longer to build up? Because it seems like it's almost a body size issue with him. How
he's skinny,
muscled he is. I guess.
Yes. Yeah, he's still bigger than Brandon Ingram, but he's still skinny.
Well put.
At least.
I mean.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
All right. I mean, I think he'll get used to it eventually. I mean, I think it's the same. I was watching Markelle Fultz earlier today, and I think it's the same thing. Markelle Fultz has been blocked like into the crowd like 4 different times already. I think it happens with every rookie. I think people are just overreacting because it's Lonzo.
So you're saying that Lonzo Ball isn't a top 10 point guard, which is crazy to say that a rookie coming in already isn't a top point guard. Thanks, Ricky.
Yeah, he had him ranked higher than the number 1 overall pick, but it's all right.
But Dave, going to kind of what off Jake said, and with expectations, because saying that they're set too high, I mean that's pretty fair. I mean Lonzo coming in was kind of put as the savior of the Lakers. What do you think the expectations for Lonzo Ball should be, at least for him right now, Dave?
For this year, I think for the early couple months, it is going to be pretty conservative. I think if you can get like 10-4-4 probably is probably the average what you expect. I mean, he'll have nights where he pops off, obviously, but I think conservatively 10-4-4 means you're getting involved, you're at least hitting a couple shots, you're getting everybody else involved. He's very active around the basket, which is good. He's very helpful when it comes to rebounding. Honestly, for me, the biggest thing I saw was when he got bodied by Beverly. It was just straight up size and muscle, and he wasn't expecting it. Like there was a sense of like if he was paying attention, I don't think he would have had that problem, but. I think that it's going to take a whole offseason, basically, or a whole season of him building up physically. And I do expect to see like that little twist at the end of the year, like when he starts to look legit. I think by February, little end of February start, we'll start to see some really nice games out of him consistently. But I think the expectations are really high for him, and it's his dad putting the pressure on him as well as all the media, everybody in the league.
It's the second largest media market in the
and
he
got handed the keys to the Lakers day one. So
And Jake, kind of going off Dave, I mean he threw out a stat line there of 10-4-4. Do you think it should be based off a stat line, or do you think it should just be more how he looks out on the court and how he adjusts to the game?
I mean, the stat line's pretty fair. I think scoring is the big thing with him because we know he can pass, we know he can rebound. I mean, the passing's all dependent on his teammates. That's a whole different issue, but I don't think the whole thing with him is he doesn't have a very quick first step, and he's not going to body you back to the basket. Like I don't know, and his jump shots I don't even know how to describe it.
It's wonky.
Yeah, it's
wonky, and I just don't see he's going to have to focus on one of them and just improve point by point, like year by year. Like he's not going to be I don't think he'll ever be a 20-point a game scorer, but if you could ever, I don't think he will be, but if you could get 10 out of him in his rookie year, I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think 10's. I think if he's going to really shine in any statistical category, it's going to be rebounds, as he's shown, at least in his debut. Because I mean, he isn't a big guy, but he is at least quick going to the basket. He's got long arms, and he can at least tack the ball and bringing up the court. He's got great court vision. But I agree with you. I think that the wonky shot definitely needs to be fixed, and that was the biggest thing and the biggest reason why I didn't like him coming out of college that much. Yeah. But we see the natural playmaker, we see the natural leader, we see the natural scorer out there. But one thing that really did worry me was at least the physicality. Because I agree with you, Jake, that it's something that guys do develop and kind of get used to, at least the more they play out there. But I just feel like when they body him like that and with the size that he is, I feel like they can get into his head. And he really didn't have an answer for any of the trash talking Bev was throwing out there. He didn't have any answer for him on the court as well. I just feel like he can get at least in his head early because he is so young. I think it's going to be something that hurts him a little bit. I think he's going to be able to get over it for sure because Luke Walton's going to be able to help him progress. Brooke Lopez is going to be able to help him progress. We saw Brooke Lopez come to at least the defense of him, throwing a huge block at, or at least huge pick, also a block at Pat Bev. But I think it's going to be something that takes a while for him to adjust to. But at least going off Lonzo because, again, it's one game. We can't judge him off one game. He's probably going to look pretty decent against the Suns tonight as well. But moving forward from Lonzo, going to his second-year player in Brandon Ingram, a guy that we have higher expectations for, a guy that we thought is probably middle of the pack to lower 20s starting small forward, but even then a fairly highly ranked small forward, had a pretty rough night shooting, to put it lightly. 3 of 15 from the field. What are your thoughts on Brandon Ingram? Because I know Dave's a big fan of Brandon Ingram. What are your thoughts on Ingram, kind of to set the scene?
I saw it was a picture and it said, it's like you're playing 2K, and instead of increasing your attributes, you spend all your VC on tattoos. Brandon Ingram. I mean, I think he's going to be a good player. Again, he can't shoot right now. I don't understand. Like, he could shoot in college. Mm-hmm. He could even shoot a little bit. It might have just been an off game. That's what I'm thinking. But he should be a good player. I mean, he's a freak in nature. His body just needs to add some. He just needs to eat some burgers.
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah. I mean, he's 190, same as Lonzo right now.
Jeez, he's the same weight as Lonzo. Yeah. Oh, my God.
6'9" to 6'6".
Yeah, I mean, I love Ingram. Offensively, I don't know if he'll ever be your one. I think that's the concern. I think he's going to grow into a good two-way player. I think just natural size is on his side. And like you said, it's as soon as you start building up some muscle. And you got to remember, like, these kids are still, 20. I think he's, 20? Mm-hmm. Maybe turning 21 this year?
He's 20, turned 20 in September.
Oh, that's right. He just had the birthday. Yeah. So he's still got time. It's just, I think, very hard for a young player with his size to learn how to use it. And, I think we were talking about this a little in the preseason. Like, his shot had changed multiple times last year. He never hit a consistent stroke with it. So I think, again, finding his shot, building a little confidence in that's going to go a long way. But honestly, they've got a great young pairing. It's so early on for them. I don't know what to expect out of him other than a pretty decent defender right now. But he's not a reliable scorer. He's not someone I'm going to dish the rock to. Mm-hmm. That's my problem right now with this Lakers team is I see Lonzo trying to get assists, but who's going to put it in other than Brooke?
Well, and Jake, I want to go to you on this because we talk about Lonzo kind of struggling with his shot, struggling with his size and not really being a reliable scorer early. Dave bringing up the fact that Brandon Ingram probably this year is not going to be a reliable scorer. Who do you think is going to do the majority of the scoring for the Lakers? Is it going to be Brooke Lopez? Do you think that maybe off the bench Randall's going to be doing something? Kyle Kuzma was really great in the preseason. Who do you think is going to end up being their scorer on this team that Lonzo and Ingram kind of play off of?
I think it has to be Brooke Lopez. I'm not a believer in Julius Randle. I think he might not even be there if Kyle Kuzma plays good enough. Because I think Randle's a free agent after this year, isn't he?
I don't possibly.
I think he's
restricted.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think if they have Nance and Kuzma and they're supposedly going to sign LeBron and Paul George, that's what everybody keeps saying.
Ricky's on that point.
I don't think it's going to happen either. Not when he looked at that team that played yesterday.
All right, so you're thinking Kuzma potentially off the bench is going to earn his spot and bump Randle out? I like it.
Yeah, I don't like Julius Randle either. He's just one-dimensional.
His booty.
But,
it's okay.
Yeah. I think Larry Nance is more than capable of being right now a starting power forward because they're not a playoff team.
No.
I don't think they'll be they're not even close to a playoff team.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I think, Brooke Lopez has to be the only scorer. I don't think Ingram's going to be, he might put up 12 a game. Mm-hmm. And then Ball, if you get 10 out of him, it's fantastic. And I think Lopez could be the 20 a game guy, but even then, I don't think they even have a top 15, top 20 offense at that point.
Well, and one thing I want to kind of go into is the rotation, because you brought it up a little bit. Larry Nance was a starter last night. Luol Deng was a starter last night. Ingram was a starter. Lopez was a starter, and Ball was a starter. I think the three guys that are going to maintain startership position, at least is going to be Ball, Ingram, and Lopez. I don't think they're going to move those guys out of the starting lineup. Like maybe you'll see a minutes decrease, if anything, because Ingram played 31 minutes. I don't think that's going to be a for sure thing. I think he might average around 31, but I think he's probably going to fluctuate up and down just like how players do. But those three guys for sure in the starting lineup. So Brooks going to play your center. Lonzo's going to play your point guard, and then Ingram can float between the 2 and the 3. So looking at this, Jake, are you for sure set on Nance being in that starting lineup? And then if you have Nance in that starting lineup, who else do you think is going to be in there? Do you think it's going to be Kuzma? Do you think it's going to be Randall? Do you think Dane's going to get some starts? Or do you think even Jordan Clarkson can make his way back in?
Well, I think tonight it was Ball, Ingram, Lopez, Nance, and Brewer. Mm-hmm. And Dang hasn't even played in the game in the first half. So, I mean, I think that's a decent one. I think I like Kyle Kuzma a lot. I think that he might actually crack the starting lineup by the end of the year. I think he could be better than Larry Nance, but I don't think Julius Randle will be a starter for this team. I don't think Jordan Clarkson's better off the bench, I think, and obviously they're not going to start over Lonzo.
Yeah, so, I like where you're going with this. I definitely like where you're going. I think that I agree with you like 100%. The question for me is like that Nance Kuzma, because I'm already in on the Kuzma hype train as well. The dude's legit. He's a great shooter. I think the thing is, do you want to abuse like the shooting matchup? When Ball's on the bench and you have Clarkson running point, really having somebody like Kuzma out there who isn't afraid to take shots and is a very good shooter. I think that advantage in the second unit is very nice. And Nance is a great complementary player as a role player in that starting unit. No, he's not going to give you a crazy stat line, but he's going to do the little things that matter. He reminds me of, like, what's going to be their Taj Gibson. Like, I'm a Bulls fan, so I reference the Bulls a lot. Sorry if it's not exact, but, like, he reminds me of that kind of a player. He's going to be the glue guy. He's going to be the energy guy. And I just see that, like, he's a perfect fit for, like, that starting 3. I think that the fourth or the final spot's kind of open, though. It could be Randall. No, you don't want Randall and Nance.
No, it's not going to be Randall.
No.
It's not going to be Randall.
So, all right.
I think they need to find a small forward, basically.
So pretty much this whole segment's turned into Julius Randle bashing. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ultimately, though, I think the starting lineup at least is going to be Lonzo Ball. I agree with you guys.
KCP,
Lopez,
I forgot.
Oh, KCP is in there.
When he's able to play.
So KCP is probably going to be thrown in there sometimes. But even then, I don't think...
He'll be the 2.
I don't know if he's going to be completely consistent in that lineup, to be honest with you, because I think that he doesn't bring too much offense. I feel like this team is going to try to pair as many offensive players with Lonzo. I feel I feel like he's going to play in there for sure.
If that's the case, then you drop Kuzma at the 3.
Kuzma should start, because I think to make Lonzo the most effective, you need to surround him with as many shooters as you can.
I agree.
I think Kuzma's a way better fit than Nance.
I think what we're going to see is, I think Nance is there for a reason. I think Nance is a guy that can be efficient offensively. I think we saw it in the first game. But I think you're going to see a lineup of Lonzo, Ingram, Kuzma, Nance, and then you're going to see Lopez.
I like that.
I think you're going to see a lot.
It's a huge lineup.
It is a huge lineup.
Yeah.
But even then, you have a lot of speed there, because Larry Nance is a very athletic, big guy. Ingram, super athletic. Lonzo, super athletic. Brook Lopez, light on his feet. Like I said, he's jelly out there. But he does bring a lot to a team. And Brook Lopez is a great player and has been a great player for a while. He's just not physical. I mean, he's similar to LaMarcus Aldridge. Yeah. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't a defensive stalwart anymore. He's a guy that's kind of floppy out there. They just get floppy as they're older. But I think that Laker fans, that you should temper your expectations for Lonzo, for Ingram, for a little bit. But I think you're ultimately going to get there. What's your kind of timeline for the Lakers if they stick to the young players, Jake? Because obviously they can go with Paul George and LeBron James, but say that doesn't happen, they go with this core. What do you think is a decent timeline for them to make the playoffs, or at least get to like around 40 wins? Think it's 2 years?
It's at least 2 years. It depends what happens with the other teams in the West too. I mean, so many things can change, but I would say at least 2 years until they even can consider making the playoffs.
Without the addition of a major free agent, I'm probably 2 to 3 years. It depends a lot on the development. Like for me, my question is going back to like Ingram and Ball. Who do you think is going to have the better year this year? And I'm honestly on the fence on that. Like I don't. Yeah, I'm honestly on the fence because I don't know. Like Ingram had such a underwhelming first year. Yeah. Inconsistent as all get out. Like, and Ball has the potential to lead an offense, and they gave him the keys off the bat. So it's like, they both have a chance, but I don't know. Between the two of those, I don't know if who's going to take over for this year.
Jake, who do you think is going to take over, Ingram or Ball? At least with those
who's
two
got
players.
the better year?
Can I say neither?
No, you got to pick one. It's a fast break podcast.
Ingram over Ball. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with Ingram too. I don't think it's close because I think Lonzo Ball's gonna have games, and by games I think maybe 10 games where he's gonna look great.
Yeah.
And like a number 2 overall pick, but I think there's gonna be a lot of games where he looks mediocre. I think there's gonna be a lot of games like last night where he just looks lost out there because guys are going to body him up. He's gonna see Pat Bev again, and Pat Bev's gonna get in his head again. He's gonna see guys out there that can get in his head. If he ever plays Marcus Smart's going to bully him up. And we all know this. If he goes up against Delly's going to bully him up. Brogdon's going to do the same thing to him. These guys who can play defense and can talk trash and can at least surround him with size and also speed. I mean, even speedy defenders, say like a Chris Paul, going to eat Lonzo up. So I feel like when he goes up against these very weaker teams, he's going to get eaten up.
He can thrive against the teams like Phoenix, though, and have some good games, what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
If you go up against
And he might even go up against a decent team and have a nice night.
Yeah.
He might go up against the T-Wolves and have a decent night. It depends on, it depends on what's really around him. But I think that ultimately Lonzo is going to struggle this year where Ingram can find some shots. And even when Lonzo has a good game, that's going to help Ingram because Ingram is going to be finding open shots and open lanes. I think ultimately Ingram's going to have a better year. Any final thoughts, Jake, for you on the Lakers that you want to throw out there?
No, I mean that's basically wraps it up. Yeah, I don't even know. They're probably maybe a 31 team this year.
Really?
That's
probably
high.
That's a stretch. I said that's a stretch. I was saying that's a stretch.
All right.
Maybe 30 wins.
Ricky said some more scandalous things on here, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, we're not even going to bust you.
Yeah, Giants win the Super Bowl.
Taking shots.
Dave, any final thoughts on the Lakers?
No. I'm excited to watch them play. Like this is all about young development, and that's what they've got the chance to do. I just hope that they can package off like Randall and Dang to get that contract off the books, to see what they can do during this offseason.
Yeah. Well, Jake, we want to thank you for joining us. We will have you on next month, and it's going to be absolutely fun if it's going to be the same way as this. We want to give a big shout out to Jake for hitting us up on Patreon. If you want to do that, head out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. You could be just like Jake, but Jake's number one.
I was say,
Jake's our
you
boy.
Can't replace Jake.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much, bud.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
We want to thank Jake for joining us on the last 2 segments, but we're moving on. We're talking about the injuries, unfortunately, that have happened over the first week in the NBA. 2 very severe ones, and then one that's going to keep a superstar out for a little bit. We're going to jump into that. First off, if you didn't see it, don't watch it. Gordon Hayward is out for the season and is most likely unlikely to play for this season. Maybe some hope if the Celtics go really deep in the playoffs that he possibly could come back, but I don't think they rush him.
No.
Gordon Hayward fractured his ankle, right? Broke his ankle.
It was, you can't break an ankle. It was like tendons, and then the bone in his leg was broke.
Yeah, it went the wrong way.
Yeah,
it was disgusting.
Rude.
Yeah, fractured tibia and dislocated left ankle.
Yeah.
So Gordon Hayward messed it up. Had successful surgery though, but is unlikely to play. Jeremy Lin tore his right patella on his knee, went down. Very different injury from Gordon Hayward, but very
it was very
unsettling
emotional
to watch.
I mean, I think the worst part about that one was he knew right away. You didn't see anything physical, but when you watched the slow-mo replay, you saw what happened to his leg, and then everything clicked. He knew within 5 seconds of landing that his season was over.
It was similar to the D Rose injury. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like the Pacer one.
Oh, man.
I think it was similar to that, where it wasn't a big injury, but D Rose knew once he went down that it was bad.
Yeah.
And then Chris Paul, banged up going into the season, and he's going to be out 2 to 4 months. The one that hurts the most. 2 to 4 weeks, sorry. 2 to 4 weeks for Chris Paul. Yeah. The one that obviously hurts the most, Gordon Hayward, since he's out for the year. And also, this is Boston. He was supposed to be number 1, number 2 behind Kyrie or with Kyrie, and they were supposed to be a playoff team. I think this hurts the most. I think we can all agree on that. But how specifically does the Gordon Hayward injury hurt Boston?
It changes their entire offensive dynamic, because this was a team where Kyrie, not exactly known for his ability to run the offense himself, because he's been fairly unproven. I mean, LeBron James had been kind of there. Before LeBron, it was a very young team without much of an expectation out there. So really this was going to be, an offense shared between Horford, Kyrie, and Hayward. And honestly, Hayward would have been the focal point of that in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds, and Brad's mind, I'm assuming as well. This is a huge blow because he was such a dynamic player. He was a good two-way player, gave you good scoring, solid rebounding, great ball in hand. Like his handles was solid. So honestly, I think this changes the entire way the Celtics will play, because now you're going back to I almost think they want to go back to a similar style to, do they go the IT route and play it off of the Horford and Kyrie, let them do pick and roll a bunch? You got a second-year player in Jaylen Brown, who now has a lot on his shoulders.
Well, and not only Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum
thrusted in as a starter now.
Yep. I mean, this changes every timetable and all the expectations for this team because you went from, we're going to compete with the Celtics, or we're going to compete with the Cavs for the Eastern Conference Championship, and if we beat them, we think we can go up against the Warriors and give them a good fight. Now, it's like, are we a top 4 team in the East still?
It's something that was brought up in our live stream, the fantasy football live stream for Week 7, is that to one of the viewers that it's now no longer the Celtics are no longer a top 4 team, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because you look at the structure of the East, you have the Cavs for sure, Wizards for sure, top 4 team. The Bucks have been very impressive so far early on, and Giannis has looked ridiculous. But then again, it's early on in the season. I'm not trying to discredit the Bucks. I still have them as a top 5 team, top 4 team. Right. Then again, you look at the Celtics, what they were able to do. They lost a lot, obviously changing the whole lineup a lot. You lose Avery,
4
you
out of
lose
5 starters.
Gordon Hayward. Yeah, you lose so many different players on this, but you have Marcus Morris, who's going to be coming back at some point.
Yep.
You have players like Marcus Smart still on this team. You have Kyrie Irving, who I think is still an upgrade over Isaiah Thomas. I think Isaiah Thomas was fantastic. It's probably going to look into the kind of structure of Brad Stevens' team, but I still think Kyrie has bought in so far to Brad Stevens' look, and we saw in the first game against the Celtics, Kyrie really hasn't found his way yet, but I think Kyrie is a good enough player to at least adjust at some point. I think the biggest problem with the Celtics, if they're not a top 4 team, it's not because of skill and it's not because this team isn't working on the court. I think it's just because they're going to need time to settle into their roles. Because then again, you're looking at Jason Tatum, rookie. You're going to rely a lot and heavily on him. With Jaylen Brown, he's a guy that had a lot of pressure put onto him in his rookie year, but he's still going to need to develop, and he's still developing before our eyes. We saw him take a lot of shots early in that Cavs game as well, over 20 shots in that game. He seems like he's able to hold that load, but if he struggles a bit, how will his reaction be? And that's something that worries me a little bit. Al Horford, soft inside, still very a very useful player, a guy that can move the ball, score, not a great rebounder, but that's the reason why I have Aaron Baines in there. But again, I don't know if this bench is deep enough for the Celtics to kind of handle this loss of Gordon Hayward because, Kyrie's a great player, but I don't know if the bench behind him, the depth behind him is deep enough.
I think the question is, where's that scoring going to come from? Because Jaylen Brown is effective while driving to the hoop, and he's very good there. The question is, the outside shot, it's hit or miss. Still a lot to be proven there. Like I said, Jason Tatum, just unproven. I mean, he's looked very sharp at times. And offensively, that's my question because, without Hayward out there, you really have kind of a hole at the 2-3. So it's the question of 2 young kids being pushed into starter minutes. And then, honestly, I think Marcus Smart he looks really good out there.
Yeah.
I think the thing for him is he's got to just his shooting preferences. He's got to realize when is the time to shoot and when he needs to pass the ball.
He's not a scorer for sure, and I think we all know that.
But he doesn't. At all times, he does.
And when we saw a couple spurts, last season in the postseason, he went off once. And in college, he was a scorer. But I think the scoring is really going to rely on not only Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but at least off the bench, it's going to rely a lot on Terry Rozier, a guy that Danny Ainge did not want to trade at all, did not want to include into trade talks. But he's a guy so far through three games, averaging 12 points off the bench, has had 2 nice games back-to-back against Milwaukee, 50% shooting, 54% shooting tonight against the 76ers. You look from threes, mulling around 50%. I mean, if Terry Rozier can do this, I think it's a really nice piece off the bench. And it's going to be interesting to see how Marcus Smart plays off of Rozier. But, this is going to be 2 guys that similarly are going to have to kind of fill a role that, Marcus Smart and Avery Bradley filled last year. And I don't think Terry Rozier is going to do what defensively Avery Bradley did, and I don't think scoring-wise he's going to do what Avery Bradley did, but I think that you're going to at least, see some improvement there, at least some, contributions there, and I think ultimately this Celtics team can bounce back. I think if they go up against the Raptors, I think if they go up against the Wizards, they can give them some trouble. I don't know if they're going to win it, but I think this is easily still a top 5 team in the East.
Do you think they're a 47-win team?
Oh,
that's
44, 43, 43 to 47 probably.
Okay.
I think they're in that range. They're going to win over 40 games.
Yeah, I think it's still a well-coached team. You still have 2 All-Stars on there.
You still have a decent bench.
Yeah, I think the physicality from Baines, honestly, I was incredibly frustrated watching him. Just watching that Cavs game, he really is physical, and I think that's fantastic because that adds an edge. And when Morris gets back, I want to see those 2 on the court, not on the court necessarily at the same time, but just what they add to this team changes the dynamic, and that's what I'm encouraged to see. All around, I think it's a solid team. I think they're pegged at 45 for me right now without Hayward. I think Kyrie's assist numbers on the first night was kind of an anomaly. Like 11 assists is not what I would expect out of him every night.
But I also don't expect him around 4. I think him sit around 6 or 7.
I think he's 6.5. Yeah, that's pretty fair bet. But 45-win team probably.
I think the biggest thing is that they just need to adjust to the loss, and we'll see how they do. But I think it's
you think
biggest.
Terry Rozier though was your guy who's gonna come out of this smelling like roses?
No, Jason Tatum.
Jason
Tatum's gonna.
I think Tatum's gonna.
After Gordon Hayward went down, I said Jason Tatum's gonna win the Rookie of the Year. And I think that's still going to stick, unless Ben Simmons goes off, which he's been going off. But I think Jason Tatum has the ability and been put in the situation and in an offense where he can thrive. And I think Jason Tatum's going to come off smelling like roses out of this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Gordon Hayward comes back into this now after the injury. But let's move on to another season ender. Jeremy Lin, coming off of an injury last year, signed by the Brooklyn Nets, a guy that you absolutely love, played 25 minutes in that game and then goes down with the injury, driving to the basket. What is really the biggest loss? Is it the fact that Jeremy Lin's not going to be playing this year, or is it going to be how Jeremy Lin's loss affects the Nets? So is it going to be Jeremy Lin personally, or is it going to be the loss of the Nets and how it affects their team?
I mean, it's a two-parter. I think Jeremy Lin on the Nets, on the court, is fantastic, and it was a great fit. He was a good mentor for D'Angelo Russell, to be honest, 100%. And he can. The upside is he can do that from the sideline. Him being around D'Angelo Russell is a bonus. That's absolutely something you want. Jeremy Lin has played on like 5 different teams, and he's went from bottom of the bottom to insane in New York, and then
a 7-year vet.
And that's the thing is like he's got that experience. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's got an amazing play style that I think D'Angelo has something to learn from.
Yeah.
The downside of him being out again is he's 29. This is a pretty serious injury. He is one of the quickest players in the NBA. His first step is second only to John Wall. And I have to wonder at 30 when he comes back if he's all the way back to start next season. And again, this injury, it depends, where your athleticism will go. And there's been reports of people who've had similar injuries. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. It seems like about 70% of the time they get their athleticism back after a year. So I'm going to put my odds with him. He's done nothing but surprise people. He's beat the odds every step of the way. I think he will return. Honestly, the Cavs, I hate to be an asshole, but they lucked out.
Yeah.
They're going to get a better pick because Jeremy Lin's not there. Because last year, Jeremy Lin on the Nets, they were almost a borderline playoff team. And without him, no, they were dumpster.
But at least you do have someone to fall back now with D'Angelo Russell, and it's not a garbage hole back there. I think Shane Larkin was our starter for most of the year after Jalen went out. But at least looking at Jalen's contract, he does have a player option, most likely going to opt in with the Nets next year, and hopefully he can bounce back, and we wish the best for him. But at least D'Angelo Russell, he popped off for 30 in the first game, went for 17 in the next game. D'Angelo Russell's been efficient from the field. Do you think D'Angelo Russell's going to make the Lakers regret trading him after what you've seen so far?
As much
as
possible. I think the thing
because now he's going to take even a bigger role with Jalen out.
Exactly. He will be a potential all-star in the East this year, I think, because of Jeremy Lin being out and him being the focal point of that team. Regret's hard to base for the fan base because a lot of them knew that what they were losing out on of a potential star in him. The big thing is, Magic decided Lonzo Ball's direction. Lonzo Ball is going to be what did he say?
Future.
A future and a leader in the locker room, and that's something that he didn't see in D'Angelo. So I think D'Angelo's still young. I think calling someone a leader at 20 is hard. So I think that regret, maybe some of them already do. I just think that he's gonna play his mind out. He's gonna be awesome. He's hopefully gonna be an all-star this year. Yeah.
The one thing you do is you traded him to the East and you got rid of the Mozgov contract. Let's move on to a proven leader, though, in Chris Paul. He's going to be out for 2 to 4 weeks with a bruised left knee. People are speculating that's going to be more towards that 4 weeks mark. He's going to be out towards a month. How much do you think this hurts the Rockets, and not really on the court, because this is still a team that last year with a similar core, obviously losing Pat Bev and 5 or 6 players, but you still have the similar core starting, and you still have Eric Gordon off the bench. How much do you think at least this will hurt the bonding of Chris Paul and this starting lineup? Because this is something where it took a while for them, at least in this Warriors game, especially with Chris Paul hurt, to really get going and bonding together. And now with him being out for a month, I think it's really going to hurt them. Do you feel the same way?
I'm actually on the other end. I think that, honestly, if he returns back, and I want to make sure I emphasize healthy, and that's the thing, is you don't rush him back at this point.
No.
You understand that he was already out there not at 100%. that's a problem. You don't need to do that. This is October still. Like, get the fuck out of here. I honestly think if he returns healthy, he already knows, the shots. He knows the guys in the system. He's going to bond with them off the court. I think the play style will flow. I'm not super afraid of, this time out. I think we're going to see the same Rockets team we saw last year, basically. Like you said, the majority of the core is still there. I have very, very low concerns for his time out. I think this Rockets team will continue to succeed. I think when he comes back, be reintegrated, but take your time on that. Like, there is no rush. Absolutely, I want to emphasize.
Yeah, and I think the one thing is that I think this team is going to struggle a little bit, but not too much, just because they don't have as deep as a bench last year, and the way that they run, these guys are going to get tired. But I don't think that it's really going to be a huge threat to the Rockets and how they're going to perform on the court. I just think that the one thing I worry about is, even though Chris Paul and James Harden are buddies, I still think that it's going to hurt this team, at least bonding and coming together, because James Harden wants the ball in his hands, and when you give him the ball for a month straight, he's going to be used to it. And even though James Harden is probably all about winning and all about bringing Chris Paul to this team, when you have an ego, and at least being a superstar like James Harden is, I'm not saying he shouldn't have an ego, but at least being the caliber of player that he is, saying, hey, Chris Paul's back, you got to take up some of your time, your usage is going to go down. I think it's going to be a little bit salty. I feel like James Harden really isn't going to show that on the court, but at least might affect the Rockets a little bit. And I don't think it's a killer. I don't think it's anything that's going to hurt the Rockets in the long term. I think they're going to be fine in the playoffs, and I'm glad this injury happened early. But I think the biggest thing is you got to keep Chris Paul healthy so that he can continue to mold once he comes back from the injury.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the usage. I didn't even think about that, because James Harden, you don't want to burn him out. That's you have your 1A, your 1B basically at that position, but you got to keep Harden on I don't want to say minutes restriction because that's silly, but like, you have to keep your eye on him. Don't let him run himself to death. And then the other thing is the turnovers that he just, he's a turnover machine.
He's a monster. And that's one thing where Chris Paul, even though he's banged up, I don't think he had a turnover in that Warriors game, which is ridiculous. But anyways, tell us what you think about the injuries down in the comments below. Are the Boston Celtics screwed without Gordon Hayward? Do you feel bad for Jalen? My heart goes out to him. I feel so bad for him.
That video that was crushing.
And Chris Paul and the Rockets, how much do you think the at least chemistry on that team will be affected? Let us know down in the comments below. But anyways, we're moving on. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo MVP talk. And looking at this, there's obviously a lot going on. We mentioned him in our top 5 candidates for MVP. We only had him at 4. Looking at this.
He was my dark horse, though.
He was your dark horse. And look at him so far. He's been absolutely stupid. Bucks are 1-1. Won against the Celtics. Lost against the Cavs tonight. But Giannis has been absolutely ridiculous. 34 tonight against Cleveland in a loss. 37 against Boston in a win. 13 rebounds against Boston, 3 assists against Boston, 3 steals against Boston. Then you look at the Cavs, 34 points, like I mentioned, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 block, and 3 steals. He's been ridiculous. He's also been super efficient, 68% from the field against Cleveland and 59 against Boston. It's ridiculous what he's doing so far. Dave, even if they aren't a top 4 team, and maybe if they're not even a top, and maybe if they're not even a top 3 team in the NBA, in the Eastern Conference, do you think Giannis putting up numbers like this, not numbers like this, because I think he's going to come down, and maybe you don't think he's going to come down, but do you think he can be MVP this year?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, he can be.
Can he be the front runner, though, throughout the entire of the year? Because Russ came in pretty much as the front runner.
Brody dropped a triple-double on the opener. It's really hard to disagree with him continuing to do that, even with 2 superstars on that team. Bonkers. But what Giannis can do is he affects the entire game. And that is something special. I think if he averages, even if it comes down to reality, he's not Superman. If he puts up, 28, 8,
I was
8
thinking
and
28,
3,
number 2.
28, 8, 5 and 3, something along those lines. Like, the fact that he has 3 steals in both games, if he can keep up above 1.5 steal a game, if you get 2 steals a game, like, come on.
Well, and honestly, I think the block number is kind of low for him.
Well, yeah.
This is a guy that, again, it's
he's got like a 7'7" wingspan, 8-foot wingspan.
But with his quickness, his ability, his wingspan, and his just height, this is a guy that can average possibly a half a block, half a steals per game, be a guy that's in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, while putting up 28 points per game, while putting up 8 to 9 rebounds per game, and adding the fact that you're having like 8, 7.5 assists per game. Giannis is ridiculous. I just worry about the only thing that people look at sometimes. Mostly it's the best player on the best team wins the most valuable podcast.
Most valuable player.
See, this is what happens when you talk about MVP so long on the fucking channel. Win most valuable player. it's because they're the best player on the best team. But I think the Warriors kind of screwed that over because you don't know who the best player is on the best team, and there's so many players on that team that are valuable and really defines what is valuable to that team. What does that team need to be great? We really don't know. So then it defaults to players like LeBron, who's not on the best team, but is the best player in the NBA. But then again, LeBron wins it so many damn times. So what does Giannis need to separate himself from guys like Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron, and we'll throw in Russ because Russ, kind of changed the whole narrative by doing something that hasn't been done since the 70s.
Yeah.
What does Giannis need to do to kind of separate himself from the pack?
Honestly, it's continued to be a two-way player because that's something special that you don't see out of everyone. I mean, you get occasions where, players like Kawhi Leonard is like the standard. Jimmy Butler's up there, but not as good offensively. He's not a focal point anymore now that he's on the Timberwolves. So you look at a player like Giannis, who is the one, and Jabari's out, so you are the one for half the season probably. I mean, he has such a chance here to set himself apart from everybody else. I think by the time Jabari comes back, he might be like the default option left. Like, he set himself so far apart from the field. The biggest thing for him, continue being a two-way player, and the other thing is they have to win games. I'm sorry, you can have these ridiculous stat lines. He dropped 34, 8, 8, 3, and 1, and still lost. Sorry, if you're not a top, I want to say a top 6 team in the East, there's zero chance you get an MVP. I know your argument for best player, best team, roughly has been the standard. I think in this weakened East, if you're not even competing as a top team in the playoffs, you're really a long shot.
Well, and the thing that I want to mention, it's kind of been consistent in the fast break as the running joke, is this team is negative when Giannis is on the court. And he is great defensively, but then again, this team seems to be dragged down for some reason when he is out on the court. And at least, I'm not saying that Giannis is the reason the Bucks are losing games. I'm not, going that far. But you look at this Cavs game, and yes, the Cavs put up a ton of points going up against LeBron James, going up against one of the best teams in the East. But it was sitting at a negative 17 out here, and he had the worst plus-minus out of any player on the court. You look, Brogdon was a minus 15, Monroe was a minus 15, but minus 17 was the worst out on the court for the Bucks. He played the most minutes, 39, for this team, but still, there's something to say and something that continues where, hey, if you're out on the court and your team's negative, how can you be the most valuable player? And that's the one thing that I look to is that, he might be putting up stats, he might be loading it up, and he is a fantastic player. I'm not denying that, but I think there's something to say that if you're losing games and you're in the negative, that's got to go for something. I don't think any MVP has ever been in the negative and won MVP.
No, I 100% agree with you, and it's a matter of the fact that he's playing with a bunch of guys who are honestly role players. You have to admit, right now, Tony Snell's a role player, Thon Maker is a role player, Chris Middleton should be better than a role player.
He's not a role player.
Chris Middleton is underperforming.
Okay, dude, it's 2 games.
I know, but that's all we got to work with.
You could also say Giannis is overperforming because Giannis is not averaging
Giannis is
35,
Superman right now.
8, and 9, whatever he's doing right now. I mean, it's early on in the season. We know what Chris Middleton can bring. Chris Middleton can be a very high, Do
you think he's going to average, 18 points a game?
Yes, he's
20
done
points
it before.
I'm just saying this year. I don't know. I don't know, and that's the thing is, you need. That's fine. That's fine. You can bitch all you want, but
I'm not bitching. It's 2 games.
But when you line up against good teams...
All right, fine. Is Joel Embiid going to average only 11 points a game? That's what he's done so far for 2 games.
Well, in 20 minutes, yes. So if you play him out there for 30 minutes, he'll put him more.
I hate you so much.
Point being, when you go up there with Brogdon, Snell, Thon Maker, Chris Middleton as your 4 guys outside of Giannis versus LeBron James, Kevin Love, Dwayne Wade, even though Wade's washed up, the whole point is it doesn't match up well. You have Giannis, who is far and away the best player on this team. Jabari obviously would be second if healthy, and Chris Middleton in that mix at third. That's great, but the difference between this Bucks team and their depth of talent versus every other playoff team in the East is hefty right now. So that's my concern is, like you said, plus, minus, negative. Yes, there's a bunch of advanced stats out there too that will argue that, extremely valuable. Is he, the linchpin to this team, or is it just because he can shine so bright because no one else can step up? I mean, I don't want to go as far back as the horrible Michael Carter-Williams rookie year on the 76ers where you just get volume because you are the only option.
Yeah.
But some of these stats could be inflated. I know he's a phenomenal player, but yes.
But even then with Michael Carter-Williams and it was him getting the rookie of the year there, I mean, there was no other options. It's not like there's no other options for MVP.
Right. No, I understand. I'm just saying as far as how to fill out a stat line.
Yeah.
Why does he stand out so much? Because if you don't watch the games, you just see a stat line, it's like, holy crap, this guy does everything. You watch the game and you really see how he changes how the game is played around him. And I think that's what makes him special to like the above average fan in the NBA, I want to say. Because if you watch him play, it is different. It's different than staring at a stat line and being like, damn, that's impressive. It's, holy shit, this guy is something special. Yeah. And I think that's where he'll kind of draw in more fans. Over time, he's getting more attention. And that's hopefully how he will win over the fan base for the MVP.
Without a doubt. If he's not a superstar already, at least in, I'm not saying like superstar, like number one on a team. I'm saying more like superstar in the eyes of the media. If he's not already, I think this is his year definitely to come out and do that. But I don't know if that means MVP for Giannis. But tell us what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that Giannis is going to be an MVP? Because, again, we bring up points that he's going to stuff the stat lines. He's going to look ridiculous out there. He might be the best two-way player this year in the NBA. But then again, the plus-minus is something to worry about, and the record is something to worry about. So let us know if you think Giannis is going to be the MVP this year, because he's definitely going to be in contention.
Can he keep up these numbers? I mean, is he going to put up 30 a night, 28, 25? It's going to be a big jump. Is he going for MIP again?
Drop a stat line in the comments as well.
Yeah.
Drop a stat line, drop a like, and hit that subscribe button as well if you're on YouTube. And also, if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, thank you so much. We're going to give a shout out to Blog Talk Radio. Again, they pimped us out on Twitter, so want to give a shout out to them. So if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, gave us a download. Big thanks to you guys over there. We also want to give a huge shout out to Jake for being a patron and jumping on for 2 segments. He killed it. He was awesome on those 2 segments. Ricky is not back yet, and I know a lot of people have been clamoring in the comments. We only have 2 wireless mics. We want to get Ricky on a podcast. We will sooner rather than later. And big shout out to Ricky for editing this. But for Dave Oster, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next week.